Your business model is, let's help you get more leads. Let's help you get those more appointments. In fact, if you aren't willing to do it, we'll get them for you, get them on your calendar so that we're driving more revenue because you're solving the problem that, especially in this market, agents are saying, we're dipping in revenue, and you're going, yeah, well, we'll get it for you. Let us and our team build this out for you. We're trying to surround our market and offer them value. And then we're just trying to make sure that they're aware of everything we can do to help make their life better. And we're refusing to let you off the hook without saying yes.
You're listening to the #1 real estate podcast in the world. We talk with real estate professionals all across North America about their wins, losses, lessons, and stories help you win in your local market today. My name is Cody from Sheridan Street. I'm joined with Vikram Deol of the Real Estate Sales Academy. Vikram, man, we just got out of a really intense podcast where we chatted a lot about just ways that real estate agents can actually win. And I'm really excited to launch that podcast. Yeah. So we have a really amazing guest today. But before we intro the guest, man, what's happening and what's good in your world?
Dude, getting into the coaching space was so hard. I never thought, like, with the experience that I had and the background and the sales, right? I mean, we did $250 million in sales in a very short period of time. We went from being entry level to entry level luxury to luxury, as what people would call it. To me, luxury is just how you treat people. It's not about the price point, because it's the way that we treated people that got us to where we were at in a very short period of time. I never thought that people, because I've always been a fan of coaching, even though my dad would always talk shit. He's like, that's a waste of money, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Dad, you spent $500,000 on education to be a doctor. Like, what are you talking about? I never knew how hard it would be. And, like, seeing people like Mario, 10 deals in the last 75 days. Sherry, who's a brand new agent, she was with her previous brokerage for 3 months, and then she had a mentor for 6 months while she was now she's with Real, and for the last 6 months her mentor said, don't worry about anything other than a website. And so she's like, well, I don't really know how to build a website. And she's been with me for going on 3 weeks now. She's already booked 3 in-person meetings, 2 have showed. Right? She's like, oh, 1 didn't show. And I'm like, congratulations. That means you're welcome to being an agent. Like, you are now an agent. Like, when you have your first no-show from somebody you don't know that you met at an open house, that means you are doing the work. And, people like Heidi, who's got now this year, she's brought on 2 expired listings in the last probably 4 months since she's got into expired. And she's, had some travel and some other things that she's working on. But the fact that, like, people are out there doing the work, it just makes me happy, man. Like, and I know that you have the same sentiment because you've watched the journey, but it's so cool to see, like, how finally, like, I have fallen into what I'm really good at, which is teaching people how to communicate and be authentic and open and real and raw. And it's so cool because that's what I love doing, and I finally found a place where I can do it. So it's been a really cool, like, 2-3 weeks for me. I like it from a personal level.
Yeah, for me, it's been really interesting watching you really find clarity. I think that was the biggest thing for you last year. Is like you just lacked clarity on, like, what you wanted the business to look like and the structure of, like, the training. Like, and it's hard in the coaching space. Like, when you don't have clarity. When you don't have clarity, it's hard to help other people find clarity.
Totally.
And we're going through the exact same thing right now, where a lot of changes with Sheridan Street, a lot of clarity, a lot of seeking of clarity in order to, like, be the business that we want. And it's really interesting because I chatted a lot about that clarity on our guest podcast. Bob Gauvreau of Gauvreau CPA, and over the last 6 years, kind of intro Bob. Bob's been a really big asset and a really great friend for me. You're one of the first entrepreneurs that really believed in me in regards to what I was doing. I was running that brand that's called Create Your Purpose, and it was literally my first business. And I gathered a bunch of business owners together to essentially fund this event that I wanted to hold on a quarterly basis, and Bob invested in that. And Bob and I have worked together, in numerous numbers of ways over the last 6 years, and I've watched Bob's business grow from being his business. I guess you were technically at Hunter, but it was on Sheridan Street as well. His CPA firm, I think at the time, had like 8 to 12 employees. Now I think you guys are up to over 100 employees.
Wow.
One of the fastest growing accounting firms in Canada. Has done some pretty incredible things. Has had the opportunity to work alongside Tony Robbins.
Nice.
He's worked in Taki Moore's boardroom with us, and I'm so privileged to have the opportunity, especially in the market that we're in real estate right now, to have Bob sit down with us to chat a little bit about how we as agents, how we as entrepreneurs can manage our expenses, can decrease our taxes, which pay less to the tax man, minimize our taxes, and increase our profits and increase our cash flow. Bob, without further ado, welcome to the RE Agent Podcast.
Amazing. So excited to be here, gentlemen. This is going to be great.
So
we're pumped. Well, I got to say something, because I know I've known you for a while, Cody, and living together, I feel like I've known you for a lot longer. But Bob, I just want to say you've been pivotal in Cody's success and his confidence, and it gives me chills, actually, because I had a completely different mindset, like picture of what you would look like, right? Because like we make up these images in our head.
Was I bigger?
You were older.
Was he taller?
Okay. I was older and bigger. I look like The Rock, right?
Yes, you looked exactly exactly. No, but I what the reason why I wanted to bring this up, one is I want to give kudos to you, because Cody's an amazing entrepreneur, a great friend, and he mentors so many people. And it's because he had somebody like you, I believe, to take him under his wing. But two, you guys make sure you pick the right mentor, right? Like that, it's so important that you pick the right mentor, because if you don't pick the right mentor, they will give you their best advice, but their best advice might take you the wrong direction of where you're trying to go. So, Bob, welcome to the show, man. I'm excited to pick your brain on what you're doing and see where you're at. Can you give us like a 30-second to a 1-minute like high level overview of what got you into creating personal brand and creating this huge firm that you're now building?
Yeah, well, 30 to 60 seconds. So Cody hasn't told you everything about me. I don't know that I can do much within 30 to 60 seconds, but I'll do my best, Vikram. And thanks for that. And you know what? Just before I jump into that, I do want to say, Cody has been, I think, such an inspiration to so many people. And, I know before he'd even started really his entrepreneurial journey, just seeing the energy and passion he had to help people was something that I was attached to. So I know you're saying thank you for supporting and mentoring Cody, but I almost want to say it was a little bit selfish attaching myself to someone who was so passionate and energetic about making an impact in the world. And for me to continue to watch him grow and succeed is an honor and a privilege. So thank you for that. But I think maybe it was just a selfish interest wanting to attach myself with successful people along the way. So that was over 60 seconds. So I'm going to jump back in here. A little bit about me, right? Started my entrepreneurial journey when I was in the CPA world. I was working in a regular CPA firm, and, in those large multinational CPA firms, you kind of end up down this pathway of expertise, even if you like it or you don't. If you have a talent, they push you into a certain hole. And, the nonprofit world, as much as I love giving to charity and helping advance our community, is not an accounting space I want to be in. And I left there, wanting to work with business owners and people who are passionate about making an impact in the world. And, that's where I started in 2008. Started off first year with $220,000 of revenue, which, quickly grew to now being just over 10 million with 90 plus employees. Depending on when this is released, maybe it'll be 100, Cody. But maybe not. We've got 90 incredible people, and part of that journey honestly has been aligning with people who are experts like Cody. And Cody was for sure a huge influence on me in our marketing space and in our brand identity. And back when I had met Cody in the Create Your Purpose sort of stage, it was really around, what attracted to me was his ability to take a brand and create a story. And for me, that's been something that I've been really passionate about. As much as CPAs don't like to get in front of cameras, and Vikram, we were talking about this just briefly, it's non-existent in our space, where in the real estate space, there's more people with greater personalities and more extroverts. But regardless of it, it's a matter of being dedicated to it and saying, listen, I want to tell my story. I want to tell my brand. I want to share my values, because the more I can tell that story, the more I can get in front of people, the more people come find us, because they align, they believe in what we believe in. They believe in, creating a difference together, and know that we will help and support them in any way. And I think telling that story has been super impactful to the success we've had.
I want to start here because I think this is the perfect place to start. When the pandemic happened in 2020, Bob, you were pivotal for the business community to, you put out the economic response plan for businesses, how to actually get access to funds, how to get access to capital, many of which we took in 2020 in order to keep our businesses afloat as my business was changing. And right now, a lot of real estate agents feel like they're in that moment of it's like whenever, 2020 was great for agents because people were moving and transaction volume was up, and 2021 was especially great for agents and transaction volume was up. But it's like a lot of agents now, with transaction volume being down 42%, over 42% in the Toronto market, a lot of agents that did $500,000 last year are now struggling. They've done maybe $70,000 to $150,000 in revenue or gross commissionable income this year. And they're trying to find different ways to leverage business, but they're also trying to find different ways to cut expenses or cut cost in a market that is so challenging across the board. There are some markets obviously that are up. There's some markets that are down. You work with a lot of real estate agents. You work with a lot of real estate professionals. What are you advising them right now in this current market that play, again, in the business world plays a little different, but specifically for real estate professionals, what can they do to proactively drive income for their business? What are you advising for them to ensure that they make it out alive?
And Cody, there's a lot built in there, and I'm going to kind of go circle back to the beginning of it, and because I want to address everything, and I think this is really important. And if we go back to 2020, the reason we jumped in was because we were fearful. I was fearful when the pandemic happened. I was going, oh my God, my clients are all out of business. Their doors are all closed. What do I do? At that point, I think, which is crazy to say, I think we had about 30 employees at that time. In fact, it was less than 20 at that point, because we hired Hannah right before the pandemic sort of release 18. So we've gone from 18 to 90 in that period of time. And the reason, again, we did it was because we were terrified, and I was terrified that all my clients were going to have to close their doors because nobody knew. We've never been through this before. And it is very relatable right now because we're kind of seeing this market that, we're heading into this recession, but it just feels different than what we've had in a while for a few reasons. And I'll talk about those in a second. But, I think in that situation, and the reason we've grown so much is that we really went out to serve. And I think, for any real estate agent, before I get into talking about cutting expenses, it's really knowing, what is your mission? What is your value? What is it that's meaningful to you, that your purpose is? And when you really align with that and you go into these times where people are having challenges selling their homes and there aren't as many being listed, if people align and resonate with you as a human being and what it is you're trying to accomplish and your values, people will come and find you. And I think it is, and Vikram, you said this too, congratulations on your no-show because you were there putting in the work. And in 2020, that was us putting in the work, making sure that everybody had every tool and resource they could to be able to survive. And, as we evolved through 2020, we come up with this survive and thrive model that really talked about, three things. One, the first thing we need to do is get access to cash resources. And for any of you right now who don't have a line of credit or you don't have some sort of working capital area where you get access to cash, you need to find it. And not to say that you need to go spend more money. I'm not saying that, but let's make sure that our safety net is big and wide. And the reason we want to do that right now is because maybe right now we don't need it, but the moment you need that safety net is the moment that nobody's going to give it to you.
Yeah.
So get your home equity line, get your line of credit lined up. Okay. That's first and foremost. That applied in 2020. I think it applies now as well. The second component, which I think, Cody, is where you're driving at, is reevaluating your business model and saying, here's how we've been operating. Things have changed, right? I talk a lot about, the different type of expenses in a business. One being variable costs, meaning these are costs that relate to every deliverable. So for real estate agents, this could be, a sub-agent or a buyer agent that you have that you're paying commission to. It could also be brokerage fees. It could also be, traveling costs to and from locations. As you sell more and you take on more listings, those costs go up as well because you're doing more work and you have more expenses included in deliverables. The second component of your business model is fixed expenses, which is your rent, maybe your admin person who you have as a fixed salary. It's your insurance costs. It's your office supplies. Those are relatively fixed because the more volume you do, your assistant isn't making more money. They're essentially there for 30 hours a week or 40 hours a week or whatever that looks like. So back into the let's reevaluate our business model. We need to look at how this happens. And if the market is dropping, we need to look at a buyer agent and say, do we need to have a buyer agent on right now? Are there ways that we can eliminate some of these expenses because we don't need them? We needed them last year when we were selling $800,000 of properties, or our commission was $800,000. But maybe now if we're down at $250,000, we're not at that same level. We need to look at our expenses and evaluate them and say, can we survive without them? And we need to get lean. And we need to get lean in these spots because we need those cash resources to put back into our marketing, back into our content creation, back into our getting in front of people, sharing with them our value, sharing with them our brand so that they come to us whenever they need us. And, that's not going to go away. If you pull away on those items, your identity is going to go away and you're not top of mind anymore. And then, so that was survive and thrive. And Vikram, I'll just finish this last piece and then we'll jump in. The last piece is get ready for it, everybody. Get ready for the greatest opportunity that you're ever going to see in your industry is where this economy bumps back and everybody starts buying again. And our real estate agents are maybe going to drop off. The ones that aren't super successful might change careers. So the number of active agents is going to lower. And then the volume's going to pick back up. And guess who they're going to come to? They're going to come to you as a real estate agent because you put in the time, your brand is there, you're present, you're active, and you're embracing the idea of the new market that's coming in because it's coming. It might not be right now, but it's coming. Be prepared for it and capitalize on the greatest opportunity that's going to be coming down the pipeline.
Let's talk a little bit about this because getting lean, Cody and I have done it this year. Cody did it at a much bigger scale than I did. But one of the things that I had to do was I had to see if my admin was actually the person that I needed at the time. Person I liked, but was it the person I needed? And what are some of the ways, right? I have some thoughts on it because I've been an agent, been a team leader. I've had a decent size operation where we had a couple $100,000 a year in employee salaries, down to a very fixed amount of salary costs. What are some of the ways, because you see, and you can see behind the curtain of these real estate agents' books, where are some places that you see agents overspending on, which isn't the right place in your opinion, and where they're underinvesting on?
Yeah, well, and this might not resonate with everybody, but I got to tell you, if you're paying for newspaper ads to have your listing in a newspaper ad right now, I think you're absolutely nuts. I remember starting out in 2008 and Yellow Pages was a big thing. And I remember all the accountants were in Yellow Pages and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And they're like, what do you mean? That's the only way to get known. And I'm like, nah, there's stuff on the internet. You guys need to learn this. And I feel it's the same way. I look at the paper and, it maybe for some people your audience is there, but to look at, your reach in spending marketing dollars, I think there's way more effective ways. So what I would suggest, the number one area of spending is just disappointing advertising spend, evaluating that and saying, how do we get the greatest amount of leads in that can be converted in the most effective way so that it drives our revenue? Because if it's not being effective, we need to get rid of it. The other area, Vikram, I would say as well is a lot of agents and just know this, real estate agents, I love you. I work with a lot of you and really appreciate and respect the grind that goes into being a top agent. But sometimes when, the market is really good and the agents are making a lot of money and not really needing to work that hard, they go out and they buy the expensive car with the high lease cost and maybe the high monthly payment. But all of a sudden that $800,000, that $1 million of commission level goes down to $200,000. And now the value of that lease cost at $2,000 a month is a substantial portion of the budget that's not really relating to driving more revenue.
Totally, bro.
And I would say look at that as maybe the two big pieces to start out. And I like your idea too, about Vikram, about the office staff. And I see this a lot in the real estate space where people bring on an assistant, the volume drops, they continue to pay the assistant, but maybe look at sharing that assistant with other agents within your brokerage because they likely have capacity. So instead of eliminating that person in their role, just look for ways that we can better utilize them by maybe subletting them to other agents who need that sort of administrative support. It'll help cut down on your expenses. Again, at least in the short term until the volume picks back up, and then you can maybe re-pull that resource back in.
Hey, what's up? If you're a real estate agent that is not converting at least 2 deals a month, join me inside the Real Estate Sales Academy, where I will teach you exactly what to say, how to say it, so that we prevent objections and we don't create sales resistance from our prospects. If you're not doing at least 2 deals a month, comment trial below, because I'm going to give you an opportunity to try our program before you buy it. You're going to get 3 live coaching calls with me, who sold over $250 million in real estate, millions of dollars of Cutco knives for free, because I believe in try before you buy, proof over promise. See you inside, comment trial below. Let's switch gears here, because I think I think what you're doing in the online space, and the fact that you're a CPA that hired Taki, and you have a course and you have all these things, but if you guys aren't watching this on YouTube, Bob's got an insane setup in his background. Like, he's got this stencil, the mic, the whole shebang, stand-up desk, right? And you said something earlier, because there's a lot of agents that have great personalities that are still scared to get in front of a camera. They're still scared to put out content. You got into a space where it's not talked about at all. It's probably you're the weirdo where everybody's like, oh, he's going to fail. He's not in the yellow pages. Oh, he's doing this. Oh, he's going to do the YouTube thing, guys. Oh, look at Bob. And now you're 100 staff, 100 team company on track to doing $10-15 million, which, again, in the CPA world sounds like it's a big number in any business, but in your world, it's a huge number, because most CPAs are like realtors. It's a small mom and pop shop where they admin maybe 1 or 2 people, a couple $100,000 if they're lucky, and they're working it every day, like the grind that it is. What was your mindset? Let's go to like 2020, what I think 2018, 2019, when you kind of started going really all in on your social brand. What was the mindset that you had? Because it has to be scary, because if it's not scary, it's not worth doing. It had to be scary. It had to feel weird. It had to feel out of place. And how have you seen that? And I know you touched on it, but how have you seen that grow your business?
Yeah. And what I'll say is that it hasn't been easy, right? Being out there, putting your face out there, being on camera, going into live podcasts, not knowing what people are going to ask you, right? It's not easy. And that's okay. Doing things that are challenging is okay. And in fact, I think more importantly, if you want to grow into the greatest version of yourself, and this is me directing this to the listener, you want to grow to the greatest version of yourself, you have to do things other people aren't willing to do. And in my space, nobody seems to be willing to do it, Vikram. You're right. It's which is part of the reason I got into this industry in the first place, was that it wasn't really based on, really great extroverted personalities who were good at relationships. It was that they were really good at sitting in their office and solving problems. And I wanted to differentiate myself. And I would say, again, 2017, 2018, really starting to document and add value and sharing tips and tools that will help positively influence the outcomes that people get in their lives. And it's been huge for us because people resonate with us. And I can tell you right now, we're probably we're the only 8-figure CPA firm in the country that has one owner. So that's pretty unique. We're definitely one of the fastest growing companies, not just CPA firms in the country. We were just on the Globe and Mail list. And part of this is because we're willing to do what other people aren't willing to do. And I had a meeting with a prospect yesterday, and he came in and he's got a consulting company. They've got a hiring agency. Like, this company was doing $6 to $8 million a year in revenue, and they've got a pretty substantial business. And I said, well, how did you find me? And he's like, well, we saw the podcast. We then got retargeted with ads on Facebook. We saw your YouTube videos. We ended up on your website. And then when we hit your website, you had somebody reach out to us directly to book an appointment. And he's like, so I don't necessarily know what the final reason was that we bought from you, but I can tell you it was the fact that we couldn't get away from you, and we see what you're capable of and what you guys bring to the table. So again, for me, it's not even so much just, a social media presence. It's learning the strategies and tactics to get a lead in and surround them so that we continue to infiltrate their heart and soul to know that we can support them until they say yes. And we've gotten really good at that over the last 12 months, to the point where at this point, we've got a full-time sales team that's involved, which is pretty amazing. That's something that's not happening in our space or our industry. And those people are out there just serving the market to say, we can help you. And yes, you're right. You've seen the ways that we can help you. We can help you. Guess what? We're going to match you up with the people internally that can help you, and we're going to solve your problems. And I would say it's the exact same one. I know you guys do the exact same thing, right? Your business model is, hey, let's help you get more leads. Let's help you get those more appointments. In fact, if you aren't willing to do it, we'll get them for you, get them on your calendar, so that we're driving more revenue, because you're solving the problem that, especially in this market, agents are saying, we're dipping in revenue, and you're going, yeah, well, we'll get it for you. Let us and our team build this out for you. And then also you've got the mentorship and the coaching to help people identify, how they could be doing things better. So, I think both of us in our approach to business is, one, we're trying to share our story socially. We're trying to surround our market and offer them value. And then we're just trying to make sure that they're aware of everything we can do to help make their life better. And we're refusing to let you off the hook without saying yes. And that's kind of how we've circled our brand and our online presence.
And you've done it so beautifully, as a brand, like, the brand story, I still come back to there's a video of you sitting in the, I think it's Capitol Theater. You're sitting in a theater telling your story, getting in front of camera. This is many, many years ago. We're talking probably 6, 7, 8 years ago.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Cody.
yeah. The who we are, the passion, the passionate ones. I think that through talking with agents that want to do, there's a ton of agents that are in our ecosystem that they say, I want to help more people. I want to have the ability to have a larger impact. But one of the things that agents struggle with, and I know that Vikram will echo this sentiment as well, is they're often reactive versus proactive. And now you as a CPA even take an entirely different approach to planning with finances. You have your CFO program where it's, more proactive planning. Walk us through, maybe somebody has made mistakes from a tax perspective or from a marketing perspective. They haven't spent enough in order to get the clients they're looking for. But they're looking towards 12 months in the future. They want 2024 to be better. They want to drive more revenue. They want to drive more profit. They want to minimize their taxes. They want to increase their cash flow. What advice do you have to them that will allow them to have the proactive planning? Like, what should they be looking at? What should they be considering for proactive planning so that they're not making, when the market shifts and they do start going back to making $800,000 a year, like, how do they keep that money in their pocket?
Yeah. Again, Cody, you're hitting me with these loaded questions so I'm gonna circle back around a little bit and say, even before we start talking about keeping all of the money, every single agent should be setting goals. And, I use this line often, and it's, if you don't know where you're going, how do you know what path is going to get you there? And if you don't start with goals and targets, how do you know what you need to do to get those and accomplish those targets if you don't even know what those targets are? And I see agents, I see business owners all the time just go to work and work hard and, try their best. And it's like, guys, we're missing it. What are you trying for? What are you trying to accomplish? Because if we don't have that defined, we're spinning our tires. So for a real estate agent, I would say you need to be very real with a realistic goal and a realistic outcome of what you can accomplish this year. And let's say it's $500,000 in revenue, right? Let's say you want your commission to be that. What is the average home value that we're dealing with? Which, let's say we're getting 2.5%, right? So does that mean we have to create 40 deals at the average home value in order to generate $50,000 or $500,000 in revenue? So if it's 50 deals that we have to get, that's essentially one a week. So what do you have to do to get one deal a week? Well, you have to go out and you probably have to have 10 prospect meetings because, like Vikram said, you're going to get your no-shows, which is very real in every industry. And then you've got to close the deal on those that do show up. And they might have family or friends that are in the industry. So you might get, 2 or 3 out of 10 people that show up so that you get the listing to close the deal so that you get the $500,000 in revenue. If you're not clear on what it is you need to do, you're going to walk aimlessly and just hope for the best. And so I think for every business owner, every real estate agent, if you don't have that sort of objective laid out to say, this is what I need to do this week, or this is, Cody's team needs to get me X number of calls this week because I can actually outsource that, that's a beautiful thing. So let's know what we need to do. And then once we've made the money, or once we've got the intention to, and we're actually setting these expectations, then we need to monitor what's actually happening. Because if we're not getting the 10 appointments a week, then we need to revisit whether 10 is realistic, or if we're not doing enough to get the 10. And of the 10, are we getting the 2 close? If we're not getting the 2 close, we have to revisit this. We have to reevaluate, right? Because the closest time we're going to be setting to getting that $500,000 in revenue is right at the beginning of the year. The farther we go down that rabbit hole, the harder it's going to be to recover. We can recover from day one, or we need to revisit our expectations. Don't revisit your expectations to set them lower. Figure out what actions you need to take to better realize your expectations. Okay, we've got that in place. Now let's talk about money. Because now that we know we've got a path, we've got a framework, we know exactly what we need to do, we're going to go out, we're going to earn this damn money, and we're going to create these results. And once we are on track to realizing these results, there's a few things that I would say. Number one is know the optimal structure that you can be as an individual that will help you save the most amount of tax. So in the US, I'm not 100% sure whether or not we as real estate agents can operate in an LLC sort of space. And Vikram's giving me the nod, which is saying yes, which is amazing. So let's know whether or not setting up an LLC that will maybe allow us to opt into an S Corp, like let's fix our tax rates at 20%. We need to know that that's an option in the US. In Canada, we can now incorporate under a corporation and our tax rates are 12%. So we need to understand what options are available in our business structure so that we can plan out to pay the least amount of tax legally possible. So structure is always going to be the biggest home run hit. But then we break it down and we go, okay, Bob, what is the greatest question that you get from all people on how to pay less money? And I usually say, hire me. And a lot of people do, as you can tell. So the pitch is working. But to be real, and I think this is where a lot of business owners fall a little bit short. And I get this question all the time. It's, so what do we spend money on so that we save tax money? And I say, well, you don't, right? If you want to save tax money, or in actual fact, if you want to spend money on something, you want to make sure that that money is going to earn you more money. Right. We're not unnecessarily spending money just to get a tax deduction. And let me walk you through this example. So we're in the US, we've got an LLC, we've locked in our tax rate at 20%. We have $100 to spend, and we want to save $100 in tax. So you take that $100 and you spend it on something that's not necessary for the business, right? You get these new business cards that you never use, right?
But they're nice. They're super thick.
Nice.
They're soft
They're
touch.
Super nice.
Man.
Yeah.
I can only put 2 in my wallet at one time. I feel like a billionaire. Come on,
totally.
Bob.
Yeah. You're just flying them out like it's dollar bills.
Bro, I could throw them like a Chinese ninja star and kill some.
Right. Well, and if you can do that and it's knocking out other agents so that you're getting all the market, maybe that's a good thing. But so let's say you spend $100 on this, right? It's not helping us get any more additional revenue in our business. We are going to be out the 100 and we save $20. So in actual fact, at the end of the day, we've got $20 in our hand, which is tax savings. Whereas if we approach it a different way and we say, we're going to be as efficient as possible and we're only going to spend money that's helping drive our business growth and business financial outcomes. So I'm going to just pay the tax and I'm going to keep the 100. Well, my $100 then pays the $20 in tax. So I have 80 left. Which one works out better? So let's not spend unnecessary money just to get a tax deduction. It doesn't work that way. Keep as much as you can. Let's make sure the structure's in place. I've got some other ideas for you. I'll share in a second. But let's not spend money wastefully just to get a tax deduction. As much as we don't like the government and paying them money, we need to be smart about it. And I'd rather keep 80% of it in my pocket. Now, let's think of, we're getting to the end of the year here for a lot of businesses, a lot of real estate agents. And I get what can I do before the end of the year to save tax money? Again, I say, hire me. We'll help do some planning. You'll get that deduction. But truthfully, you want to be strategic. It's more about being strategic than wasteful. So are there items that as we head into the spring market and we're forecasting, a bit of a recovery market next year at this point. So we look at next spring and we say, what money do we have to spend next spring that if I were to spend it in December, I get full access to that deduction now versus a year from now? And that's where I want to say, let's be strategic in making those sorts of investments for the future because we know we're going to have to make them anyway. And here's another one. And I love this one. My kids are Jack and Sophia. Cody's met them. They're 15 and 13. Cody, Jack is as big as me now, and he works out all the time. It's not good.
Crazy.
Like I think if we had to wrestle, I think he could take me down, but I'm not going to tell him that ever. So my kids are 13 and 15. They are on the payroll for my business. And why are they on the payroll for my business? Well, if they claim that income, which is about $15,000 for each kid, that's a $30,000 deduction I get in my business. I save those tax dollars. So in both Canada and the US, as we make more money as an individual, our tax rates go up. In Canada, they're 58%. In the US, they're about 50%. It's ridiculous, right? So if I can save 50% tax on paying my kids $30,000, right? That saves me $15,000. That's magical. And here's the better part. They claim that $15,000 each and they pay zero tax. So I'm just getting a full access to a deduction by being strategic and having my kids do chores for my business that they need to do anyway, but pay them for it so I get that deduction. There's strategic ways that we can use items like this to make sure that we keep the most amount in our pocket.
Yeah, like hiring me to get trained. You could pay me you could pay me at the end of the year, pay it in full. You'll get a discount, right? You'll get some incentives, or you could hire Cody's company, and then that will help you the following year to actually make more money, because I can't tell you how many people I talk to that are like, well, we can't afford you. And I'm like, well, let's see how we could possibly help. Oh, okay. What are your 5 biggest expenses? Well, my mortgage. All right. Probably not going to move anytime soon. What about your cars? Oh, well, my wife drives a Lexus LX $120,000 car. Oh, is it paid off? No. What do you drive? Oh, I got a, 7 Series Beamer. I got a Mercedes E-Class AMG. Wow. $6,000 exhaust system. I was like, which one would we be easier to get rid of? Well, I don't want to get rid of my car. Okay, fine. Just foreclose on your house then. Like, it doesn't matter to me. It's your family that's going to be affected, but your wife's probably going to have a harder time letting go of her car because of your bad decisions that you've made in business. So we probably need to sell your car. That'll free up how much? Well, that's a $2,500 monthly payment. What about insurance? What about tires? What about gas? What about all of those things? Like, oh, I never really thought of that. Yeah, it's like $3,500 a month. Holy shit. That's $40,000 a year. And if you're making $500,000, $1 million and you want to spend that kind of, by all means go. But when you're at, 30, 40, 50% of what you made in your glory years and you're it's kind of like a lot of agents right now, I feel like they're chasing the heroin high. It's like they had that one good year, that 2 good years where everybody was crushing it. And they thought that it would never end, and they're chasing that high, thinking that it's going to come back. But instead, it just keeps getting harder and harder and harder, and they keep going deeper and deeper into the hole until there's no other choice. And now you're so deep in the hole, unfortunately, and I hope you agents listening to this never get there, but you're so deep in the hole that you are now unable to do anything. And it's like, where are you going to get a job that's going to pay you an opportunity to make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year? Nobody's paying that kind of money for most people unless you have like a ton of skills. So
yeah. And I would say this too, Vikram, and I'm an accountant. I'm conservative in some elements. I'm not very conservative. But what I would say is, cost cutting is great, but I think go back to the conversation we were having earlier too. I think you need to work on both, where it's, be willing to do things other people aren't willing to do.
Well, you hired Taki, and that was what?
Yeah.
$75,000 for the year plus, give or take?
Yeah. Well, with conversion to Canadian dollars, about 14 million a year. I just want to say that. Yeah.
I feel that.
But the thing is that there's so many agents out there that are unwilling to invest in themselves because they had a mentor tell them some crazy stuff. Man, this has been great. I know we have some hard stops that we probably all went over. Where do people find you? Like, especially if you're in Canada and you're looking for a kick-ass CPA firm to help you save money or, do some better things with your money, where do people find you at?
For sure. Well, and if my marketing team does their job right, I'll find you. But if you want to come looking for us, any of our social platforms is at Gauvreau CPA. I'm hoping you guys will add the links in there.
Somebody will.
Just to spell my last name, because it's not easy, Gauvreau. And obviously any of my social channels, Robert Gauvreau. We do serve the entire North American market. For sure, the high performance real estate agents, we can help you with strategies. Those that are in the business of also developing real estate, we've got lots of great strategies for those individuals as well. We work with a lot of high net worth individuals and real estate developers too. So if there's any way we can help support you, your team, your family, help preserve your equity, build your wealth, and help create an even more high-performing business machine, we're here to help.
Bob, I want to say from the bottom of my heart that just thank you. Thank you for everything you've done. This is my 6th year in business now, and I've
is that all?
That's all.
Is that all?
That's all, my
I feel
friend.
like
That's
it's
all.
been 35 years, Cody.
Yeah, no, this is my 6th year in business. I made it over the hump of the 95% of businesses failing in 5 years, and we are in our 6th year of business, and there's been a lot of ups, there's been a lot of downs, and you've been fundamentally a rock of information that has allowed us to get to where we are today. And has allowed me to pivot and allowed me to understand that investing in myself is okay. And it's again, like your proactive planning, your belief in your ability to figure things out has really helped shape me into who I am today. So I want to say thank you more than anything for joining us today. And I hope that you listening back to the podcast, go back and just listen. If you're driving, if you are on the treadmill, if you're on a bike, and you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, I just want to say thank you. If you're listening on YouTube, just to the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you for listening to today's episode, and I encourage you to go listen to it back. If you're on iTunes, encourage you to leave us a review. We would really appreciate that. We don't monetize these podcasts. Really, we do it to really help more real estate agents get the right information, because we know with the right information, you're able to make the best possible decisions for your real estate business. So without further ado, I want to say thank you for tuning into another episode of the REH podcast. We'll see you soon.